Good morning. Welcome to the webinar from DCU on our program, our MCM, which is our Masters in Computing. We will be doing a couple of things through this. One is to provide information around the application process, but a fundamental part of this is to provide you with information about the program that you have applied to study. And in order to do that, we have with us a number of people today. My name is Paul Smith. I'm the Director of the International Office at DCU, and I will do the logistics and introductions. And then we will move to the key speaker today, who is Professor Renat Verbruggen, who is the Chair of the Masters in Computing. On the call, we also have colleagues from the International Office, Bridget Carey and Colin Cronin. They will be acting as rapporteurs for this, and they will be monitoring the chat. So if you have any questions, if you can put them through chat, we will collate them, and at the end, Bridget and Colin will direct the questions either to myself, to Renat, to Professor Verbruggen, or to they'll answer them themselves. So we will try to answer through themes rather than individual questions. So if you have questions, please do it through that. The presentation will take 20 to 30 minutes, and then we will have about 10 minutes for questions and answers. The point of doing this at the moment is to provide a little bit more clarity around what you can expect from studying at DCU for 2020. Obviously, we're all aware that the current situation related to the COVID-19 virus has meant that there's huge uncertainty around areas such as travel and to do with what will be available to people. Where we are trying to provide you is certainty around the availability of the program online for semester 1 and on campus for semester 2. And we'll go through that in a little bit more detail. We have been working in the background with people like the Visa Office to ensure that if there is a requirement that due to late availability of transcripts, that we will be able to process your visas. The provision is intended to allow a different delivery model. It's important to note that this is not a distance education program. This remains the same program that you have applied for. It's the same content and same quality. So the purpose of providing the online is not to make a situation where it is purely the availability of content, but it is a different delivery mode for the program. I'm going to introduce you now to Professor Verbruggen, who is the expert in the area of the program and will be able to detail what you can expect from the program during the 2020 academic year. Thanks for that.
Okay, thank you, Paul. So hello, everyone. I'm here in the lab in DCU in the School of Computing, and it's very quiet, as you can imagine. What I want to tell you is that even though it's quiet, we're still working away, and the students are still working away on their practicums at the moment. They've just finished their exams. So this year's MSc, the final part of the MSc had to be online as well. Plus, based on the work that we've done with that cohort and with the people involved in that, we've developed quite an expertise now about the delivery that we want to do in semester 1. So as Paul pointed out, it is not an online course as such. This is education. It will involve all the same assessments, the same content as if you were on campus, and even access to lab equipment, as we will talk about. Okay, so next, thanks. So I thought as a help maybe to situate where you will be learning and where you'll be studying, I'll give you a quick overview of the school and a little bit about the undergraduate programs, not much, but just to show you where we've come from. And then to talk about the postgrads. And you're obviously part of the taught postgrad program, but we've got a very big research program as well. And in fact, one of the things you can do after you finish the MSc, and if you really enjoyed the research parts of it, you can go on and apply and become a funded PhD scholar inside the school. And I'll explain a little bit about that as well. So, thanks. So, our school has existed since the university opened. So we're here quite a long time, nearly 40 years. We're a large school. The computing equipment, we've been very lucky over the years. It's top of the range, very, very fast machines. And we've developed quite a strong academic team, really, on both the teaching and the research side. And the degree programs are recognized right throughout the country and throughout Europe, in fact. In fact, our graduates constantly contact us, ask us, for example, would we send students over to, the last one I got was from the European Central Bank, because they were looking for security engineers. So we have a very nice set of alumni out there from our programs. And as I say, industry is still looking after us. In fact, one of the aspects of the online course is that last year we were successful in getting a contract to provide what's called a SkillNet part of an MSc. In other words, an online part-time MSc in the area of AI and blockchain. And this is partly government funded, and it allows students who are working in Ireland to take courses within the MSc. So we're tied in a very big way into industry in Ireland and Europe. Okay. So I think one of the things that's fundamental in the school is that our teaching and our research are connected together. So the findings from the research and the work that is done by the lecturers in doing research feeds into the teaching. And the teaching then and the work that lecturers do with their students can feed into research. So for example, one large part of the MSc is that in the third semester, as we now call it, in other words, after you finish all the exams, you have to do a practicum, as we call it, which is a research paper has to be written on an area. Those areas come from the research interests of the staff and also from industry. And that allows students to really knuckle down and get a lot of work done specifically in areas that they're interested in. Okay, so I'll talk more about it, but it means that you've got this very nice connection. Okay, on the undergraduate side, we have 3 separate bachelors of science in enterprise computing, aimed at business, computer applications, aimed at software engineering, and then data science, which is a relatively new degree, which speaks for itself really in terms of what we're going to talk about later on. But then of more interest to yourself, the MSc has this year 2 specialisms that are available in an online form in the first semester, which is artificial intelligence and data analytics. And then after COVID and when things settle down, there will be a secure software engineering and a blockchain and distributed ledger technology major as well. So each of those 4 majors share some modules, but overall they have a specialism, as you can imagine. So what's the aim of the MSc? Well, the idea is to equip you as graduates with a set of really cutting edge skills. And the purpose of that should allow you to build, develop, and analyze software and software systems. And really that goes across the whole of the range within the majors. So we really expect that when you come out of the MSc, you're ready to provide solutions to business. You're ready to provide solutions that can help the economy in general, or you're ready to go on further if that's what you're interested in and do more research. So as I say, the majors in the first semester will be data analytics and artificial intelligence, and then later on, secure software engineering, and the security is associated with blockchain and distributed ledgers. So what does it look like? So this is an overview of the structure. Now, as you can imagine in the time we have, I'm not going to go into total detail about each of these, but I just wanted you to see the structure, okay? And it's very important to point out, this is the same structure. We're not changing anything just because the first semester is online and the second semester is blended. This is the structure that we have this year, it's the structure we'll have next year and the year after. So in artificial intelligence in the first semester, you have foundations of artificial intelligence. So really an introduction to the core notions associated with AI, the big questions and the small questions, and some of the early skill set that you need in terms of programming associated with it. Then everyone on the MSc has to do CA 640, which is professional and research practice. So that involves ethics, it involves law, and it also involves the research practice of writing papers, reading papers, understanding concepts like plagiarism, understanding bibliographies, etc., etc. Everyone does that, and it allows people to get involved, if you like, on a more broader, more holistic sense with what's happening in computing. Then we have statistical data analysis, which again probably speaks for itself. But we found that one of the real issues with current views associated with the data that comes from artificial intelligence projects is incorrect use of data. So statistical data analysis allows you to understand distributions, allows you to understand concepts of importance. And I think, Paul, is it? My screen has changed. Okay, thanks. So that's really important so that you not only understand the results, but that you can explain them to, for example, to the company that has employed you to gather the data. Okay, so that concept of significance and exactly what significance means, right? And then we have a very popular course called Data Management and Visualization. Okay, again, that's to do with how do you then present that data? How do you understand the presentation of the data? How do you emphasize significance, etc., etc. Now, so you see the first semester, 4 modules. The credits is to do with the amount of credits towards the course. They're all the same, 7.5 credits. They're MSc postgraduate courses. Okay. In the second semester then, you have a choice. We call choices electives. So the core things you have to do are data analytics and data mining. So again, building on the skills of the first semester, you will then be understanding how to actually achieve a large amount of data as an input converted into a very specific set of output, okay? And then we have a module on machine learning, which again has been developed in order to allow people to use all the very sophisticated, but also emerging machine learning approaches that are available and the algorithms that are available for that. And then you have a choice between statistical machine translation, okay? I'll speak a little bit more about that later on, but we've got a very big research center called ADAPT that are experts at machine translation. And within that, that whole area of natural language processing will be dealt with. And the other one is an advanced look at the mechanics of search and everything to do with that, okay? And then one more core module. So again, you'll only have 4 modules to do in the second semester. And that is a new module called AI, Information and Information Seeking. And again, it's a very popular module that looks across the various aspects and modern aspects of AI. And that's an evolving module as well. Okay, down the bottom, you might see additionally, there's an artificial intelligence practicum. That's what I was saying. So you have the first semester, finishes at Christmas, exams in January. Second semester, finishes in April, exams in May. And then you have to do a research project. We call it a practicum rather than a thesis because we don't want, you to produce 200 pages because 120, 125 pages of that is just someone else's work background. And we instead want you just to produce a paper of what you did, okay? So the paper will be a research paper and a lot of them are published. And the idea is to narrow down the work that you do on your research topic in order to explain to us, and you have to defend it in a viva voce, if you like, in an interview, and explain how you've used all of these things that you've learned to actually solve a problem or to investigate a problem or to do research. Okay, so that's the structure. Now, next. This is the structure of data analytics. And you'll see one thing, there is overlap. So I'm not going to talk about the overlap because that's fairly straightforward. But the point here is then in the first semester, and I know some people are quite interested in cloud, we've a new module called Cloud Technologies, CA675. And what it looks at is the cloud technologies necessary to do very large scale data analytics, okay? So it's very specific to data, but it's also obviously involves heavy use of cloud and cloud formats. And then same kind of idea, that's all in semester 1. And then in semester 2, we have similar aspects to AI, except we've also got mathematical modeling and computational science. So this allows you to look in much more detail mathematically at problems right across systems where, if you like, the issue is more to try and model the data, model what's happening, come up with equations that represent it, and use all sorts of advanced mathematics, basically, that are beyond what people would normally learn in a data analytics course. Okay, and then again, at the end, you'll do a practicum, and that practicum will be focused on data analytics. Okay, thanks. So, as I said to you, and I think it's important, just behind me here, you can see a set of theses, and we're very strong in research in the university, but also in the School of Computing. And that means that this can feed into the MSc. So we've got quite a long history of software engineering. We're involved in a lot of software engineering projects, data analytics projects. As I said to you, natural language processing, machine translation, and what they now call content development and decimation. And scientific computing. So we've got a lot of access to high-end, large-scale computing resources, and overall in computer science. So there'll be over 50 postgraduate research students right around the school and associated with the 2 research centers. And because of that, then, we also have a lot of links on industry projects. As you probably know, Ireland is a huge center for what they call foreign direct investment. So it would take too long to name all the companies that have what they call their EMEA headquarters here, right? So Europe, Middle East, and Asia. So the IBMs, Googles, Microsoft, Intel, Facebook, the whole lot, they're all based here in Dublin. And as a result of that, we have a lot of collaborative projects associated with them. So that also has allowed us to connect in with other research that's happening. So apart from all the computing ones, there's also a lot of work done on what are called sensor web technologies. So we have very strong links with the School of Chemistry and School of Electronic Engineering, and even the physics, but also even the school which is associated with what they call exercise and advanced athletic therapy. And we've got research projects that, if you like, we have ways of analyzing the data that's associated with the sensors that are used on people to pick up everything from indications of different problems in terms of health to just fitness and all of those kind of things. So it's very, very broad and very, very interesting. So I said that we had 2 very big centers. You can look these up online. So Insight is the Center for Data Analytics, and that is a European funded center, very, very large center spread across a number of different universities in Ireland. And it's world class. And we're lucky enough to have both the current director and also kind of huge number of researchers in Insight. But even more, we have a lot of what are called investigators. In other words, our lecturers are investigators for Insight on Insight projects. And they can bring that expertise then back to the data analytics MSc and to their courses. And then on the other side, we have ADAPT. And ADAPT are the people who began with machine translation, But now they look at the notion of content in general, and have been involved in some very, very large projects with the likes of Google and IBM and Microsoft, etc., in that whole notion of content generation, content analysis. One of my favorites is when they did what's called an IP translator. So what they did was they found all of the patent applications in China, and they got an automatic translation of those patent applications into English. And it was kind of a fascinating project because, as you know, an awful lot of research is hidden in patents. Then we also have a group called ArcSim, and they're the Advanced Research Center associated with high-end computing. And then we also have LERO, which is the Irish Software Research Center, and that helps with a lot of the software engineering. Okay. So I think we'll take the questions at the end, and Paul will now continue. Thank you very much.
Sure. Thanks, Renat. There's just one thing. I know we are going to take the questions at the end of this presentation, but I think that you covered off very succinctly the what of what the programs that are available, what students can expect to study. One of the areas where it might be useful to have a little bit of input at this stage is the how. I know that when we spoke earlier on, that you mentioned that students would still have the ability, even through the online on-time perspective, to access equipment remotely and be able to run their experiments. So to have the full experience of the equipment and that cutting edge that you spoke about earlier on.
Yeah. So what we've managed to do is we have labs set out with multiple GPUs in the machines, and we have them set up now that you can have remote access to them. So at the moment, our MSc students are working on their practicums. And what we've allowed them to do is to log in externally using a VPN into these GPUs, run their experiments, and get their data without ever entering the lab. And what we plan to do for the first semester is to roll out that technology so that people can get dedicated times to run their experiments, because as you know, running data analytics experiments, running machine learning experiments can take an awful lot of resources. And we know that, and we've set up a model that allows those to be done.
Great, thanks Renat. I think it's just important, again, as we try to go through this process, to emphasize to students that this is the full academic experience that they would experience, whether on the Glasnevin campus in Dublin or accessing for the first semester through online on time. I have listed here the criteria around the process for coming as a registered student for the semester. I'm not going to go through that at this point. It's already been shared, and we will be sending updates to all offer holders shortly. I think the other aspect is that as part of this, it is not a case that you will be an isolated student working alone. Still remain a registered member of the DCU community and have access to all of the supports that you would expect, whether on campus or not. So areas such as the Maths Learning Centre, the Career Service, as I know many of you are interested in using this as a stepping stone to your Go career. We will work with you during this time to be able to develop your skills on things like interview technique, CV building. You'll have access to the careers portal, to opportunities that are coming up for internships, for career opportunities. So this remains part of your student experience, regardless of the current emergency imposing a different way of accessing them. All of the lectures will be available they'll be recorded and available at any stage. We're also very keen to ensure that we can build community, so micro communities, working together with other students. Group working will still be an essential part of what will be delivered for the coming year. So it is, as I've said, there will be still the sense of being part of a cohort, being part of a group and progressing with them. We have had confirmation from the visa office that students who start their program in this way will have access to the graduate stay-back visa. So that is not impacted by choosing to commence in this way. Our real aim from this is to ensure that you have already made the decision that you want to take an education piece to add to your portfolio to allow you to graduate in November and to progress on your career. What we're putting forward enables you to continue on that track, and that is really what we're trying to put this forward to enable you to do. I've already gone through the supports that are available, and I think it is important to note that we are still really looking forward to welcoming you to the campus. The campus is open. We are working through a different scenario in that we are aware that people may have concerns, and we're trying to ensure that we meet them. If you do have any questions related to the application process, to the visa, to any questions around the process, please use the int.cp2020@dcu.ie email address. And if you do have questions that are related to the academic side of things, we will obviously route them through Renat and his colleagues in the School of Computing and come back to you on that. So at this point, I'm going to pause. I know that Colm and Bridget have been monitoring the chat, so I'm going to ask them to come in now and respond or direct some of those questions.
Thanks, Paul, and thanks, Renat, for that information. I think that was all really helpful for students, hopefully, to get a flavor of the course and also the on-time online model. We have had a number of questions come through in the chat, so we're happy to try to start to answer some of them. Given the time constraints, we may not be able to answer everything. So what I would really recommend students do is, as Paul said, first visit our landing page, which is www.dcu.ie/int.pg2020. There is a great deal of information there about the on-time online model, and a lot of questions can be asked just by visiting can be answered just by visiting the website. Additionally, if you have questions sort of specific to your individual situation, please use that email address, int.pg2020@dcu.ie. We are working to answer all of the questions in there. As you can imagine, there's a high volume coming through, so please be patient. Certainly, you know, we will get to you as soon as possible with answers to any of your questions. But in terms of some of the ones that have come through today, I think there's probably some common themes as to what students might be interested to learn a little bit more about. And maybe if we start off with some of the academic questions, since Renat is here, one of the things I think students are interested to know about is really sort of the issue around a January start date, and why potentially there is no option at the moment for a January start. So Renat, I don't know if maybe you can shed a little light on that for the students.
Yeah, it's very simple, really. The MSc is a full year. It's not an academic year. So as I said, the first semester is necessary in order to do the second semester. And then the second semester is necessary in order to do the research project. So in fact, you will be working on the MSc from the September you come over to the following September. So if we started again in January, effectively it'd be parallel, but then it would mean that the summer period would be wasted in the first year because you wouldn't have done enough to do the practicum. So therefore you wouldn't be able to do it till the following year, and therefore it would extend the MSc beyond a full year, and we don't think that's really acceptable to students. So instead we've kept this kind of rigidity, and it is rigid, we'll accept that, but it's better because I think it gives everyone the ability to understand that it is 1 year, September to September.
That's great, Renat. Thanks for taking the time to explain that. And I think that helps the students to understand that it's not a decision that DCU takes lightly. There are reasons behind it. One of the other things that students have been asking about is, I suppose, in relation to course materials, the VLE, and also, I suppose, in relation to there will be students in different parts of the world, so they'll be operating in different time zones. So could you talk a little bit about you know, how students will access course materials and access lectures?
Okay, so we did this for the last, well, since March, basically, because the university closed in March. And what we found worked awfully well was, at that time, we already had a fixed timetable, but we took into account where people were. And what we did was we had the timetable so that the lectures went ahead live as Zoom lectures, okay? But they were also recorded. So nobody ever misses anything associated with the lecture. And the Zoom lectures, the chat, the questions and all that would all be recorded as well. That's one approach. But the other approach, for example, in CA 640, which is the module that I look after, we've already got that completely on a Future Learn platform. So in fact, the whole thing is already there. And what we'll do is we just allow you to access the whole module at your own pace, basically, within the scope of the first semester, if you like, on the basis that it does all have to finish by Christmas, if you like. So there are two different models. But we've also found that lecturers have been quite creative in terms of putting up podcasts associated with it, putting up screencasts of different parts of the course that people found difficult, doing Q&As. So we've actually been forced to learn a lot this semester about how the real online experience can work. And we're really confident that it will be very engaging, and we will understand, obviously, the time differences. And in terms of live lectures, we'll make sure they happen at times that suit you. But they will be recorded, so you won't miss anything.
Can I just come in there, Renat? I think that it is important to note that we are not suggesting that the students learn remotely. The academics and the team within the school will still remain available to students, and there will be opportunities for them to interact directly. It is not a case that they will not still have the ability to talk to their lecturers, to work in small groups, or potentially have other mechanisms to interact with the experts in the areas.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
Great, thanks Renat. I think that's really helpful for students, and some reassurance in terms of how the program will be delivered and the accessibility of the online materials and resources. So hopefully that's helpful for students. I think one of the other things they'd like to hear a little bit more about is certainly one of the main drivers for coming to DCU is our excellent reputation in employability and being able to secure positions after they finish the program. Can you talk a little bit, or maybe dive a little bit into the employability options for students, or what students have gone on to do, and sort of what this degree potentially prepares them for? I think that would be really great.
Okay. Yeah, so the students who've come out with the data analytics degree, they have been employed right across the sectors, really. So it's kind of classic that it started off a little bit niche, but now every consultancy needs a data analytics. So we've got people down in PwC, we've got people in KPMG. Every consultancy, Accenture, etc., needs data analytics people, but also the banks are associated with data analytics quite a lot, so the financial sector. And obviously the big tech companies want their own data analytics in-house as well. And increasingly even small companies who are involved in marketing, who want to understand their data better, who want to set up, if you like, their own in-house systems for handling data, they've snapped up people as well. So frankly, it's never been a problem for them. Artificial intelligence is relatively new as a concept in terms of where it's going. But it's increasingly the next thing on the list, if you like, after data analytics in terms of companies. So everyone from legal companies, we've got a lot of big legal companies which tie in, I suppose, with the tech industry here. And they're trying to improve the way they work, improve their tools, improve their analysis of data, improve the way that they handle vast amounts of information that they're getting in associated with cases. And they're using artificial intelligence tools for that, which is very interesting. And then on the wider side, of course, right across Europe. There's a huge amount of investment going into autonomous vehicles, robotics, etc. And all of those have an embedded artificial intelligence in them as well. So no, the graduate employment is really very, very high in Ireland for the degree, and the skills that you get are highly sought after, and they're very, as I say, they're cutting edge. So it's right across the sectors, really.
Again, if I can just come in there, I think it's important to note, just a follow on from what Renate is saying there, that the sectors that are strong in Ireland outside of the tech, such as the financial services and banking, are a major employer, and they will continue to be. But so too are the biodiagnostic and the biomedical devices sectors in terms, and they continue to grow. I think one of the things that people have been concerned about is employability related to what will happen after this crisis. Certainly the indication so far is that there is an existing skills gap for graduates from this particular program that will not only continue, but is likely to expand given the need to analyze the data out of this current crisis, and also to analyze how people are going to move forward to the next development. Similarly, as companies are experiencing most of their employees working from home, the idea of remote access or working through different online platform is taking a much more significant impact on all of the industries in Ireland.
And I think as well, for students, it's important to know that the careers service at DCU, it will operate. They have been operating with students online. They are providing all of their services virtually. So that will continue as well next semester. They will continue to support students. They will continue to organize webinars and workshops so that you are ready when you do come to Ireland. So, and the Career Service are really good around that, and they have a lot of experience of working with international students. So be aware of that as well. Now, Renate, while we still have you, one of the questions that I think a lot of students have is around exams and assessments and how that will work in the on-time online way. And I know obviously that happened this semester as well, so maybe you could talk to us a little bit about that.
Sure. So each module, each lecture has different assignments, but for example, the programming assignments, they went ahead. We have several servers here that they could log into, they could run their experiments on and gather the results and then hand them in, all remotely. But also with the advice and the help of the lecturer as they're going on. So I saw one of the questions that came up there was, well, what about the practicum? But the practicums are going on now. Like, in other words, I'm supervising practicum students. Some of them are back in India, some of them are in Dublin. And it's not really that big an issue. We have Zoom meetings. We have what's called a dashboard, which has a Git behind it. And the Git repository has everything that they're working on. And we've done that anyway. We didn't do that just because of COVID. That's the way we work here. Everything has to be set up so that people can verify what they've done, they can show their progress, and even our meetings are done through the dashboard, even face-to-face. We write up the meetings and they're available for everyone to see. So we've kind of, we've already done a lot of things to make the whole process of students working on assignments, working on practicums, as if you like, see-through, as transparent, and as easy as possible. So we're not worried that will change, actually. The only difference will be that the face-to-face meetings won't be possible.
Great. Okay, thanks for that. I know we're running a little tight on time. And so we're going to have kind of this one final sort of question here. I know a lot of students have been asking some logistical questions, whether that's about payments, refunds, dates, deferrals, all that kind of stuff. And what I want to let you know is that we will be in touch with students this week through email communication with some further details on how we'll be proceeding with all of these. I saw in the chat there's a few students who asked about the 1st of June deadline, which we initially gave as the date to let us know what you wanted to do for next year. We have extended that to the 15th of July. So you have a few more weeks to sort of think about what you want to do for next year and to let us know. We'll also be contacting you with a form that will ask you to fill out and return to us. This will help us kind of process all of the deferrals and withdrawals, and we'll be able to guide you through that process then. So please be on the lookout for an email from us this week, and we would ask that you read that carefully and respond to us accordingly. Additionally, as I said earlier, there is a lot of that information available on the website, so feel free to kind of look at that. But I think for the most part, the communication that you'll receive will sort of clarify some of the issues around any of the logistical questions that you might have. So I think unless Paul or Colm have any other questions, or Renat have any other things they want to add.
The only thing that I would like to add and to emphasize coming in after Renat is that much of the way of working that has been outlined in terms of the dashboard and the online provision is something that was in place anyway. This is not a reaction to COVID-19. And so for much of what we are talking about here, it is actually an extension of what would have been experienced by you on campus. So the key message or takeaway I hope that you're receiving is that the experience that you will have will be different, but the education will not. So it's important that the qualification that you receive on graduation will have exactly the same impact and validity for partners, or whether you decide to go into an academic route or a business route. This qualification does not change because of COVID-19. Our delivery process may, but the quality of the education that you receive will be maintained.
Exactly. And I suppose one other thing to kind of finish on is, again, that we understand it is a very, as we said, uncertain time for students, and it's a very evolving situation in terms of the pandemic. And please rest assured that we are working as closely as we can with colleagues across the university, but also taking advice from the Irish government, the health service executive, and other public health bodies in terms of really ensuring that what we provide is a safe and healthy environment for students, and that you are also able to achieve all of your academic goals and your career goals once you finish your program. So we're taking all of that on board in the decisions that we provide, and you know, ultimately everyone's health and well-being is our top priority too. So we will be sort of sharing information as it becomes available. Again, keep an eye on your emails from us, and we'll certainly be providing more information as it comes along. Okay. So I think with that being said, we'll go ahead and kind of wrap up the webinar for today. Again, I just really want to thank my colleagues, Paul, Renat, and Colm for their help in sort of presenting this information. We hope that you found it really useful. Thank you for attending, and thank you for taking the time. As Paul said, Ireland is open and ready for you. We're really looking forward to working with you, and hopefully, you know, making DCU a part of your future. So with that, we'll wrap it up and say thank you.
Thanks very much.